My name is Peter Morgan. I'm the founder of Morgan Legacy Partners and Morgan Franklin Fellowship. We traditionally in New Hampshire host an end of season event where we gather friends and associates of mine for the last 25 or 30 years and do that in a party format. This is 2020, and that's just not very fashionable or safe. And so we have changed the format, so we're going to do this in a video format, and hopefully this will at least suffice to get a message about what's been happening with Morgan Legacy Partners and Morgan Franklin Fellowship in the context of the year 2020. So 2020 has been a year of tumultuous turns, and the COVID-19 events have dramatically changed, and so many businesses have been so significantly and negatively impacted. Some businesses have been very, very positively impacted, and I'm happy to present that a lot of our businesses had a lot of success happen in the midst of this craziness, and we'll share a little bit more about that. And that's one of the reasons that I really believe so much in serendipity. You know, how do things happen? And in my history, I think that there's someone who watches out for me, and then things happen, and you have to be attuned to them and be alert. But when things happen, stay tuned in, because the meetings that happen or the people that you meet, there's a reason, and you have to explore a little deeper. And even in the midst of the craziness of this year, where so many things have been just turned upside down, frequently you can find opportunity, and we have certainly been able to do that this year. So let me dovetail back into a little bit more about serendipity and how it has impacted and helped us find additional staff members in 2020. Well, back in the early part of this year, I'm a snowbird, so I'm in Florida during the wintertime, and I normally would come back in June. And in the normal-ish times, I would be I would be involved by phone calls and staying abreast of what was happening with my projects. But in the midst of this turmoil of the pandemic, we've ended up with, I've never been on a Zoom call before 2020. And now I'm on Zoom calls 4 or 5 times a week. And it has made, in my view, me much, much more impactful of staying abreast of my teams and my projects, because you actually get to visualize, you can see the people as opposed to just having a phone call or be sending emails back and forth. And so we've evolved so that we have a weekly meeting, and people report in on where they stand and what's happened. Actually, the meetings have now evolved to be bi-weekly, and that type of outcome, who would have predicted that Peter feels he's even more impactful than he was a year ago? And it's just being quick on your feet and nimble, and what's needed, what's necessary. How can we take lemons and make lemonade out of that? One of the people that I met casually back in 2003 is Jim Hartley, and he was the general manager of a golf course, and I was a member there, and we got to know each other. And then evolving from that, he later worked with me at the Highlander, and Jim was just a very resourceful and bright and alert guy, and he would do anything. And we would tease that because I'm a snowbird and I'm not here, so I would open a door and I would throw in a hand grenade to one of the departments at the Highlander, and it would be a loud explosion. And then I would say, Jim, go ahead, do the best you can and fix this, and I'll be available by phone, and let's see how you do over the next 60 days. And so Jim was just remarkable. He would get things and improve them. So then he did some other things after he left the Highlander, and then back in 2012, he decided he wanted to start his own new business, a fish market, and it was named Pine Tree Seafood up in Scarborough, Maine. And he came back to me and asked, Peter, I would like to have a seasonal operation over at Old Orchard Beach. Would you help me by financing that for me? And I agreed to do that. And so we did that for 5 years, and now the business, in the midst of the COVID time, it's unbelievable. This year, his day-to-day volume is double what it was last year. And so he's asked me again to come and take a look at how he's got his organization structured with the real estate, and also looking at the business and the potential of business opportunities. And so this is an area where our great idea trust, we're looking for jockeys, people who have a great idea and a commitment, and they're ready to go. And we help them with intellectual energy, guidance, mentoring, and often financial support in order to get their business to move forward. And so we have a real success story with Jim Hartley and Pine Tree Seafood. Another success story that we have had evolve more recently, Judy Window and I go back about 400 years together. No, we really got together around 1988 or so, when we were working on some nonprofit things together. In 1996, we were two of the three co-founders for a group called the Granite State Ambassadors. And that's a remarkable organization. It's really very, very tightly tied into the hospitality industry here in New Hampshire. And a couple of years ago, I bounced into Judy. She had left the Granite State Ambassadors, and she was working at a local financial institution. And I just, as I want to do, I'm a big question guy. How are you doing? Are you happy with what's going on? And it was very obvious that she was not particularly happy with either the way things were going at this particular location. I said, well, I've got some opportunities in our Morgan Franklin Fellowship, teaching financial literacy and doing things like that. Would you be interested in coming to work for us? And so we crafted a deal, and in October of 2018, Judy came and worked for us as the executive director for Morgan Franklin Fellowship. And she's done a remarkable job with that. But as we were also talking, she told me a little, and she had, for whatever reason, she had never, over this 25 or 30 year period, never introduced me to her husband. Her husband's name is Gary, but it goes by the nickname of Diz. And she said, he's not happy. He's been in food service forever, and he's the manager of a local franchise operation, but he's just not happy with it. And I said, well, Judy, maybe, do you think that we might be able to find some way to get Gary to be in a better place? And so we were down in Charlotte, and we were at a meeting, and then I asked Judy to drive would she be willing to go to Florida and drive my car back from Florida to New Hampshire? And she said, yeah, I'd be willing to do that. And so while she was down there, and while we were in Charlotte, she visited a couple of Jimmy John's stores and said, this might be, if we could get a Jimmy John's franchise, maybe Gary could do that and be really, really happy at it. And so anyway, then Gary flies down to Florida, and they drive back, and they stop in Savannah, and they stop in a few places. Anyway, so she takes Diz to a couple of Jimmy John's stores, and he gets kind of excited. Hey, this might be real fun. And so when they got back up to New Hampshire, we sat down and said, okay, could we, and they submitted their documentation to, and the Jimmy John's, wow, you guys are great. Most people come in and they have money and no real estate or no restaurant experience. You guys actually have restaurant experience. So Jimmy John's was all excited about working with Gary and with Judy. And so the three of us, began to think through this. How could we make this work? And we developed some budgets. We started to look for sites. But unbeknownst to us, the venture capital people that own Jimmy John's were in the midst of selling it to somebody else. And so suddenly they put a hold, and the communication was all stumbled. Okay, we can't get any information. Well, let's go to plan B. What should we do? Let's start the restaurant anyway. Well, what do you want to do? What do you want to call it? Where should we locate it? And lo and behold, over the next couple of months, and we're getting close, and suddenly we're just about ready to open in March, and getting the final permits, et cetera, and the COVID time comes. And so, in some respects, really, really fortunate that we do not open the restaurant early, and so the restaurant actually opens at the end of May. And so here we are, a restaurant that's really only opened, essentially June 1st, on its way forward. And it's a jockey, it's Diz, okay? And he's got this thing, and he tells me, I'm living the dream. And whatever happened, he was going to be working really, really hard. And he's got a core team that's doing the same. And with these other things that have happened, those other stores that have closed, if they reopen, they'll all be startups. No one went to that restaurant for the last 6 months. And the fact that more COVID assistance is probably coming from the federal government, there may in fact be more free money from the Godfather or the Uncle Sam for Diz's Cafe. So that's another situation where the Great Idea Trust had a jockey, and we tried to help him get to live his dream. And it's still evolving. But that's the Diz's Cafe story. This next story, again with our Great Ideas Trust, my significant other is Joan Bechtel. And Joan has 3 grandchildren. They're triplets. And one of them I met a couple of years ago. And more recently, she and a significant other have gotten together, and they were over on the east coast of Florida. And her significant other, Corey McGarrett, is a licensed contractor in Florida doing tile and flooring. But they're on the other coast of Florida. So we got this brainstorm, and we said, maybe we could entice them to come over to the west coast of Florida, be closer. They do have a youngster. Right now she's 11 months old. If Joan was here, she would, tell you, as grandmothers always do, great-grandmother in this case, how cute her great-granddaughter is. But the reality is her great-granddaughter is really cute and fun to play with. Anyway, so we brought them over to Venice and to look around, and we have been, once again, the Great Idea Trust. How could we help get his business relocated over to the west coast of Florida, and some other financial help to help stabilize his business. And then we also started something we call the Venice Asset Group, where the idea was, in the long term, I'm very, very bullish about rental housing market activity in Venice. And I expect that there'll be some other dips. I tease everyone. If you see me coming with a screwdriver, we really have a problem, because I'm mechanically mechanically very unskilled. But Corey obviously is very skilled, and so buying properties, you always can get a discount if you don't have as much competition, if you're working with properties that are not pristine. And if you have someone on your team who can fix things, that's really helpful. And so we formed a group with Patrick Mulcahy, Joan, myself, Corey, and Martha, the Venice Asset Group, and looking to find a property. And we located a property in Englewood, Florida, which we purchased on September 15th, and they are now renovating that property and plan to move in on or about November 15th. So once again, the Great Idea Trust, working with intellectual, business savvy, that type of thing. How can we help you, as a jockey we believe in, shape a business and begin the activities? And so another activity like that has been the Venice Asset Group, and we are moving forward. What I would like to do next is introduce Michelle Demersion, who will tell you a little bit more about what's been happening with Morgan Legacy Partners.
Hi there, Michelle Demersion. I am the Senior Vice President for Morgan Legacy Partners. And while I wish that we were all here in person to visit with each other and to catch up with each other, we are very happy at least to be here on video with all of you. And we do hope that you are all doing well. So I'd like to take a little bit of time to discuss what we've been doing here at Morgan Legacy Partners over the course of the year. There's been a lot of activity going on, as I'm sure that all of you can imagine. Peter has kept us on our toes through COVID, and we've had a great time making some progress with many of the things that we have set as goals for Morgan Legacy Partners for 2020 and beyond. Today I'd like to give you an overview of what we've been doing with our commercial real estate, with our affordable housing, and also with our special projects. We are really proud to announce that on September 1st, we launched our website. This is a place that we can direct our investors as well as bankers to take a look at what Morgan Legacy Partners is all about and what it is that our projects that we have going on. They can meet our staff and the other people that we are working with. And so we're very proud of this website, and if you have a moment, we'd love to have you take a look over at www.morganlegacypartners.com. We're always very happy to bring new team members into our group with Morgan Legacy Partners. Our new team members from this year are Russ and Joyce Harriger, Griffin Dunaway, Kristen Riley, Karen Webb, and Mike Keshin. We are really happy to have all these people as part of our team, and we're sure that you'll meet them in the near future. One of the new tools that was developed this past year was a properties map for all of our investments down in the Carolinas. This has been a great tool for us to use internally, as well as for our investors and for bankers and anyone else that might be interested in learning about what it is that we do at Morgan Legacy Partners. Since all of our investments are in North and South Carolina, this has been a great tool for me to use internally to showcase where our properties are located and to give a little bit of information about each of our assets that we have down in the Carolinas. If you're interested in taking a look at the properties map, you're welcome to go to our website and take a look. And if you have any questions or any ideas for us, just let us know. One of our goals this year was to implement an information sharing system. It's very important for us to be able to share documents internally and also externally, and we look forward to rolling out this information sharing system in the very near future. Along with all of these developments, there's many more things that are on the horizon at Morgan Legacy Partners. So 2020 has been a very interesting year for all of us. We had a Zoom meeting every week with all of our managers of our projects and to keep us all abreast of what was going on. It was a wonderful opportunity for all of us to connect in one location so that we could understand what was going on with all of our assets. Our team members reported on their projects at hand, and by mid-spring, we were reporting successes. As you know, we have commercial retail centers, and so with the COVID pandemic, of course, we were very concerned with what was going to happen with our retail tenants. Russ Harriger from Primax worked with each of our tenants on a one-on-one basis to make sure that they were able to make their monthly rent payments, or if there was anything that needed to be worked out with them, he was right there to work directly with each of them. So Tom Auer, who is our leasing specialist for our real estate projects, has us 100% occupied at our retail centers for the first time in the Morgan Legacy Partner history. So from the perspective of the way COVID has affected so many people, that's a wonderful success that we're really happy to report. Our industrial tenant properties have all been able to maintain their rental payments and business as usual for them. So we're very pleased with the way our commercial retail industrial projects have been doing. For the past 4 years, our affordable housing projects have been top of mind to all of us. We've worked very diligently, and I'm sure that many of you have heard all about the successes that we've had with our affordable housing. We also were able to accomplish our first tenancy in common with 3 of our investors. We recently purchased Spring Valley Mobile Home Park, which is our 7th mobile home park. And we are currently working on financing 3 more of our mobile home parks, which we call the Big 3. As 2020 has brought us so many challenges from this pandemic, we are really pleased and proud of all of the accomplishments that we have made over this year here at Morgan Legacy Partners. Thank you and happy holidays.
Thank you, Michelle, for the awesome update on what's happening with Morgan Legacy Partners. As I promised you before, we're going to bring my other good friend, Judy Window, who I've known for a long, long time. She's our executive director at Morgan Franklin Fellowship and has been doing a marvelous job. Here's Judy.
Hi, my name is Judy Window, and I'm the Executive Director of Morgan Franklin Fellowship Foundation. At Morgan Franklin Fellowship, or MFF as we like to call it, we're here to teach people how to talk about, how to think about, and how to actually use money. We do this through stories about our fellows. Here are some of the stories we like to tell. Lindsay, one of our older students, she's a mother of twins, and her husband already own real estate. She set her SMART goals for her family, and she's mentoring with our founder, Peter Morgan. Luckily, because she set her SMART goals, she was able to actually say no to an investment opportunity that Peter offered her. She felt very good about that. Kendall was our intern from last year, and she took a vacation for the very first time on her own. She went to New York City, and she developed a budget before she left. She found it a little bit difficult to stay within her budget because New York is pretty expensive, but she did a really good job by spending more money in certain areas, but saving money in other areas. And Sarah interned with Michelle at Innovision Realty this summer. She wanted to learn QuickBooks, and because she learned QuickBooks, she actually changed to an accounting major. And now she took her QuickBooks knowledge, did a lunch and learn video with us, and anybody can learn about QuickBooks through her experience. Trent is a seasoned fellow. He's interned with us a couple of times. He did some special projects for us over the summer, including applying for SBA loans because of the COVID virus. And also, he did debt and equity positioning for Peter and his other company, Morgan Legacy Partners. He worked with a group of people and ending the summer with a job as a bookkeeper with Morgan Franklin Fellowship. Allison, another seasoned Morgan Franklin Fellow, decided to study abroad over the winter. And she came back and jumped right in, knee-deep, back into Morgan Franklin Fellowship, and she is now managing a group of $100,000 investment program. Griffin came to us with a lot of experience. He went through the standards of financial literacy pretty darn quickly. He is our advisor to debt and equity. So over the course of the summer, he became very infatuated with becoming a mentor. He mentored 3 of our Morgan Franklin Fellows in the debt and equity position. Morgan, one of our Pioneer Fellows, took the time over this summer break to purchase her very first investment property. She managed the project, she managed the people, and she's well on her way to making a profit. It's so much fun viewing the world from their eyes. Take time to look at our website. Our blogs are very telling about our program. It shows you the success of all of our Morgan Franklin Fellows.
Well, thank you very much for joining us for our end of season gala in a video format, and we will wish you a happy holiday season, and we will look forward to seeing you again in person sometime soon in 2021.